Zig Ziglar once said, "You do not build a business, you build people, and then people build the business." Most organizations talk constantly about improving work ethic, work harder, move faster, take greater ownership, and produce better results. But maybe leaders should ask a different question. Have we developed a strong worth ethic? Do people working with us know they matter? Do they feel heard, trusted, recognized, and connected to something meaningful? Because people rarely give their best for very long in an environment that continually makes them question their value. The best leaders I have ever had made me feel that my worth meant more than my position. Then as a leader myself, I strived to do the very same. Today, we're going to talk about that exactly. Developing a strong work ethic first in ourselves as leaders and then throughout the cultures we create. Let's go. Welcome to another episode of the Leading Life Podcast, where we talk practical wisdom for leadership and life. I'm your host, Andy Zook, and I've learned that leadership is about how we show up for people, how we navigate change, and how we continue growing. Right now, on today's episode, develop a strong worth ethic. Yep, you heard me right. Not work ethic, but worth ethic. Welcome to the Leading Life Podcast, where we talk about what it takes to grow, lead, and live with purpose. As I promise, always no fluff, no empty motivation, just real tools that you can use starting today. I'm your host, Andy Zook, and a reminder that this is not a podcast to sit around and discuss theory. This is a podcast for you and all of us to learn from and take action. You know what? This is really for both leaders and employees, because I hope they're both listening to this, because I need you to understand and feel this deeply inside how worthy you are already. To really echo that point, we're going to jump right into a story I want to tell you about this incredible young woman that I worked with for many years. Matter of fact, not only did I work with her, but my wife worked with her as well. And she had all the absolute right ingredients for success. She was smart, she was driven, she was thoughtful, she was kind. But I don't know if she believed in herself as much as both my wife and I did. You know, she kept knocking on doors along the way and they would never open, or they maybe opened a little and she took a position that was beneath what she was capable of. And then one day I got a phone call from her and she said, "Hey Andy, I've got this opportunity to fly into our main office and work on this project for a couple weeks. What do you think?" And I said, "I think you need to go and do it and let them see you. Let them see all you're capable of in the main office." Well, a couple weeks later, she calls me again and she says, "Hey Andy, they offered me a position in that main office." And I told her the exact same thing. You go and take that job and let them see you. There is no other way. It was kind of like Yogi Berra. If there's a fork in the road, take it. This was her fork. This was the road to take. And she was scared. I mean, she was going to have to relocate somewhere unknown. But you know what? She did it. And she has since moved up and beyond any of us in our peer group. All of us that all work together, all in around the same age group, she went beyond all of us and the bosses above us, and then some. And you know what? She's still the same person. She's still the humble, kind, intelligent, hard-working, warm-hearted individual we always knew. It didn't change her. But you know what the difference is now? She knows her worth. She knows how worthy she is, and she knows what she's capable of. And the difference for you listening is I don't want you to have to keep knocking on doors for it to finally sink in on how much you're worth right now. And then once you do that, I want that to be exactly what you do for the people that work for you. All right, let's dig in. First, let's start examining our own leadership habits. So before evaluating your employees' commitment, attitude, and performance, I think you should really take a hard look at yourself and the leadership they experience from you. Number one, do you practice active listening? I'd say the majority of leaders simply wait for an opportunity to respond to somebody instead of listening to what they're saying. Strong leaders are not always preparing the next statement while someone else is speaking. They're actually paying attention. They're listening, and then they ask follow-up questions for clarification. They allow people to finish their thoughts. Active listening communicates to your people that your perspective matters, your experience matters, and you matter. That does not mean you have to agree with everything you hear. It means people should feel understood when they are redirected, coached, or corrected. I once had a high-ranking person on our organization ask me one of the most serious career-defining questions I had ever heard, and as I was answering them, they started looking at their phone. They didn't hear a word I said. I mean, talk about sending a signal to someone about not listening, thus not caring. Secondly, what leaders do is they absorb blame and they pass along credit. Yeah, that's a big one. When something goes wrong, weak leaders look for someone to blame it on. When something goes right, they suddenly remember their own contribution real fast. Strong leaders reverse that pattern. They absorb responsibility when the team experiences a setback, while giving recognition directly to the people who created the win. They say, you know what? I should have made the expectations clear, or I could have supported the team more effectively, or, you know what, they deserve the credit. They're the ones that did the work. That creates loyalty because employees recognize that their leader is not just using them as protection during failure. This is the hard one, really. Most people are not going to do this. Probably a lot of people listening are not going to do this. And I'm going to tell you that very few people will put themselves on the line when they can sacrifice somebody else. I want you to really think about that. This is probably the highest order of integrity. Did you really examine that you did everything right? And if something goes wrong, are you taking it head on? Are you accepting the blame? Or are you just pushing it on somebody else? That's the difference maker in integrity and leadership right there. All right, number 3, the next thing I want you to focus on is intentional communication. There's a lot of communication going on in companies and in businesses, but there's very little intentional communication. So our worthiness is reinforced through clarity. Strong leaders communicate expectations, boundaries, priorities, and consequences directly. They don't make employees interpret vague comments, changing standards, silence or sarcasm, or passive-aggressive behavior. Clarity doesn't have to be cold. It should be respectful. And when expectations are unclear, people waste energy wondering, you know what, am I even doing this right? Is my manager upset with me? What priority actually matters here? And will the standard change the next week or tomorrow even? Intentional communication allows people to focus on performing rather than decoding what their leader meant. I have been on many business phone calls where someone on the team asks a very simple question, and I've seen leaders dodge the question. They don't, they'll go, well, it's in the policy and just look it up. And I'm like, well, yeah, we can all do that, but we're asking for clarification from you. And I've seen them be just obtuse about answering it when all they had to do is say, you know what? I'm not sure. Let me look into that, and I'll follow up with you guys later on today. It would be simple as that. If you don't know, find out. But be intentional. Don't be cagey. Don't be obtuse, and don't be gray. Give people clear expectations. Number 4, in this group, the next thing they focus on is radical accountability. A leader who cannot admit a mistake creates a culture where everyone hides their own. Strong leaders openly acknowledge when they made the wrong decision, or they missed an important detail, or they failed to communicate. It's not weakness, it's credibility. A leader might say, you know what, I made the wrong call, or I didn't give people what they needed, or here's what I learned, and here's what I'm going to do differently going forward. When leaders model a healthy vulnerability, employees learn that mistakes can be discussed rather than disguised. That makes calculated risk-taking, innovation, and honest communication possible. All right, so next, let's walk through this together. We're going to actually take a leadership worth assessment. This is going to help put you on a better path that you are working on developing this worthiness in your people. And I want you to score yourselves between 1 and 5. So 1 means rarely true, and 5 means consistently true. And then 2, 3, 4 in between are kind of your, grayer areas. So again, number 1, rarely true that you do this. 5, consistently true. And if you're not sitting down with a pen and pad, you can just listen to this as you're driving into work or as you're working out and think about these questions in your head. Number 1, my employees can speak without feeling interrupted or dismissed. Score yourself 1 meaning rarely true, 5 meaning consistently true. Number 2, I ask questions before reaching conclusions. Number 3, I accept responsibility for team's setbacks. I accept responsibility for team setbacks. Number 4, I give employees specific credit for team successes. Number 5, my expectations are clear and consistent. Number 6, I address concerns rather than communicating through sarcasm, silence, or indirect comments. Number 7, I openly acknowledge my mistakes. Number 8, my employees can disagree with me without fearing retaliation. Number 9, people understand how their individual work contributes to the organization. And then number 10, my leadership leaves people feeling stronger, not smaller. All right, so tally up your scores. If you scored anywhere between 41 and 50, you've got a strong worth ethic that is going to help your people develop the same. Your habits generally communicate trust, respect, clarity, and value. If you scored 31 to 40, that's a positive foundation. You're doing many things well, but a few inconsistent habits may be weakening trust. 21 to 30 points, leadership warning zone here. Employees may respect your position without consistently feeling respected by you. And then if you're below that, that is going to need some immediate change and reflection. Your leadership habits may be unintentionally diminishing confidence, ownership, and psychological safety. This assessment should not become another reason for leaders to defend themselves. It should become a starting point for growth. Now, let's develop a plan to help employees on your team recognize their worth. Once leaders examine themselves, they can really begin creating an environment in which people generally understand their value. So first, it starts with recognition and feedback, right? Recognize specifically. Generic praise feels pleasant, but specific recognition builds identity. So instead of saying good job, right? Everybody says that, good job, good job, good job. Say the way you calmed that customer down or landed that client, identified the real problem, and found a solution that protected the relationship. That made the difference. Specific recognition tells employees what they did well, why it mattered, and why they should continue doing it. Then you want to acknowledge the effort. Results matter, but leaders should also notice the discipline, preparation, resilience, and improvement go behind the result. Not every strong effort creates an immediate win. Sometimes an employee executes the right process, but still faces a disappointing outcome. Acknowledging effort does not mean ignoring the overall performance. It just means you're recognizing the behaviors that eventually produce sustainable performance. And then listen actively. Recognition is not only about speaking, but it's about listening. Ask people, hey, what is getting in your way? Where can I help? Where do you feel underused? What part of your work feels meaningful? What support would help you perform at a higher level? Then take their answers seriously. The next thing you want to do is build trust and ownership. Give meaningful autonomy. Do not hire intelligent people, then control every move they make. So many managers do this. Give employees room to make decisions with clear boundaries. Let them solve problems. Let them come up with ways to improve process. And then take ownership. Let them take ownership of projects. Autonomy says, I trust your judgment. I believe you're capable. And you are more than someone who just follows instructions here. Micromanagement may create short-term compliance, but letting them take ownership creates stronger judgment and long-term commitment. Show that impact. People need to understand that their tasks are connected to real outcomes. Show them how their work affects their clients, their fellow coworkers, overall revenue, quality, safety, community, and your organization's reputation. A task can feel ordinary until someone understands who benefits from it. Meaning grows when people draw a clear line between what they do and why it matters. I'm going to say that again. Meaning in your business, meaning in your team that you coach, whatever it is, will grow when people can draw a clear line between what they do and why it matters. The next thing you want to do is share that vision with your employees. They should not feel that the future of the organization is being designed in a locked room in home office somewhere above them. Share where the team is going, what challenges it faces, what opportunities are emerging, and how each person contributes. You cannot expect people to feel invested in a vision they're never allowed to be part of, that they're never allowed to even see. Then what I want you to do next is start creating growth and support. I mean, we talk about this a lot, but I don't see it happening. Support their learning. People feel valued when leaders invest in their future, not only their present output. This could include training, mentoring, stretch assignments. And I don't mean like something really small, something big. Give them something they could sink their teeth in and prove to you how capable they are. Have career conversations. This should be happening often. Give them cross-functional opportunities, constructive coaching, access to useful resources. Ask employees what they want to learn and where they hope to grow. Even when a promotion is not immediately available, development still communicates that you see potential in them. And then what you want them to learn is to treat mistakes as tools. We're all going to make mistakes. It happens. Mistakes should become a lesson, not an identity. Poor leaders make people feel as though one error will define their ability or character. Trust me, it's happening. Strong leaders instead will ask, hey, what happened? What can we learn? And maybe what system should we change going forward? How will we handle this differently next time? Accountability will always matter. Recklessness, dishonesty, and repeated negligence must be addressed. Honest mistakes should be examined for insight rather than weaponized to humiliate or blame someone. Respect the balance. A leader cannot claim to value employees while consistently disregarding their health, their family, their rest, and their personal time. Protect boundaries when possible. Avoid manufacturing unnecessary emergency or fire drills. Encourage people to disconnect and recover. Honestly, if you're texting your people on their day off, you need to stop. That's their day off. You wouldn't like it if they did that to you on yours. Burnout and overwork is not evidence of commitment. A healthy work ethic recognizes that employees are human beings with full lives, not organizational resources that happen to have a name and number. Let's talk a little bit more now about the psychology behind this, because it's simple, really. People have a fundamental need for belonging, competence, and autonomy. When employees feel ignored or too tightly controlled, publicly diminished, or disconnected from the larger mission, motivation often becomes purely transactional. They'll do what is necessary. They'll avoid the criticism. They'll collect the paycheck, and they're just going to go home. But when people feel heard, capable, trusted, and connected to meaningful outcomes, they are more likely to take ownership. Recognition tells them, hey, I see your contribution. Autonomy tells them, I trust your capability. Development tells them, I believe in your potential. And accountability tells them, your decisions matter. Purpose tells them, your work makes a difference. Now, that's how a work ethic becomes a performance advantage without reducing people to performance machines. And here's a very important leadership distinction I want you to hear. This episode should also make one thing clear. Valuing our people better and making sure they feel their worth does not mean avoiding high standards. You can recognize someone's worth and still address poor performance. You can listen with compassion and still make a difficult decision. In fact, a strong accountability can communicate worth when it says, I believe you are capable of more than what you're currently demonstrating, and I care enough to have an honest conversation with you about it. The goal is not to make work endlessly comfortable. The goal is to create an environment where people can perform, grow, contribute, and maintain their dignity. The young lady that I had started the episode with, who honestly is like my best story, one of many, but that one is the best. All these people around her never saw her worth. She didn't see it, but they especially didn't see it. Or maybe they were even afraid of it. There were people that saw how good she was underneath and it intimidated them. But she finally got around people who could see it and weren't intimidated by it. They saw it and knew how to leverage it to make not only the company better, but give her the work that she was made for. So think about that. I want you for this week to focus on one person you lead, and I want you to intentionally reinforce their worth. I want you to listen to them without interrupting. I want you to give them specific recognition. I want you to explain to them how their work affects the picture, larger goal of what you do. I want you to offer them some ownership of a meaningful decision, or ask one simple question. Hey, what can I do as your leader to help you feel more supported, trusted, and successful? Because before demanding a stronger work ethic from our employees, we need to develop a stronger worth ethic in ourselves. And when people know they matter, they understand their contribution, and they believe their leader sees their potential, they do not merely just complete tasks all day. They grow, and they begin to take ownership of the mission. So remember, start with recognition and feedback. Recognize specifically, acknowledge effort, listen actively. Give trust and ownership next. Give meaningful autonomy, show the impact, share the vision, and then grow and support. Support learning, treat mistakes as tools, and respect the balance. Make sure you tap in to your people's sense of self-worth, because if they believe in what they're doing, they believe in themselves, and you believe, you're all going to be unstoppable. All right? That is today's episode, and if this podcast made a positive impact on you, please share it with someone who you think needs to hear it. And then As I always ask, I would appreciate a quick rating or review on whatever platform you hear me on. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next on the Leading Life Podcast. I'm Andy Zook. Remember, I want you to lead with purpose, live with intention, and keep becoming who you were meant to be. Most importantly, I want you to go out today, be the hero of somebody's story. And I can't wait to talk to you on the next episode. Let's keep growing together. You got this. Get out there and show them their worth. And you know your worth. All right, we'll talk soon. Take care. Bye.